The news will continue until morale improves. Blaze News Tonight's Jill Savage is here now. I'm James Poulos. Welcome to Zero Hour. Jill Savage is a former sports broadcaster and is now making and breaking news on BlazeTV's nightly news show, Blaze News Tonight. Welcome, Jill.
Thank you. What do I have to do to get morale to improve? Because this has been the craziest news cycle that we have ever seen. Basically, we launched our show. 2 days later, Donald Trump got shot. Joe Biden not running on, for re-election. And we get that on a Sunday afternoon on social media. Like everything that's happening so quickly. And it all seems to be happening on weekends as well. So it'd be nice if we could get that back to like the Monday through Friday schedule.
Yeah, I'll get to work on that right away.
Please.
It's the omni cycle. It's like one snowball that keeps getting larger and larger. How do you do it? How do you withstand the news?
Coffee right now at this point in time. I mean, it's almost like a perfect storm of all of the different things that we have been waiting for to happen. The economy, everything that's happening there. All of the misinformation and disinformation that's out there. They're cracking down on the free speech in the UK and trying to make its way over here. Everything that we knew that they would do for Donald Trump, trying to make him seem like he's this crazy man and everything. We knew all of these things were going to be happening. We just didn't know that everything was going to be happening at the same time. And it has made just for basically chaos. I introduced the show every night saying, welcome to the chaos. Little did I know how accurate that was going to be in the weeks that followed.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Joe Biden, and I guess he's still president, at least on paper.
Nobody's even talking about it right now.
If the political system was the president, it would be treated like Joe Biden is being treated. Shuffled off the stage, put in a room somewhere and pretend that he doesn't exist. This is like, we are headed clearly into some kind of fundamental breakdown, right?
Yeah, we could tell that he couldn't do the job. We brushed him off to the side and we said, okay, now everybody, let's look at this shiny new thing over here. She's not that great. Nobody actually likes her, but we're going to pretend like people like her. And then we're just going to give her this media makeover like they can. And everybody has just kind of moved on to the next thing and forgot that Joe Biden is still president right now. In name only, perhaps?
Yeah, in body only, just kind of propped. I mean, they're presenting the Kamala moment as vibes. It's the vibes era, like no policy proposals, no speeches, no press conferences. I guess she's doing speeches, but it's the same speech every time off the teleprompter. No press conferences, no accountability, nothing, just pure vibes. And they're trying to turn this into a plus. Oh, no, we don't need policies anymore. We don't need governance anymore. We're just going to vibe it.
Because they know if they put policies out there, then people will attack her.
Yeah,
because
stinkers.
When she was running for president, I grew up in the great state of Iowa, where all of the presidential candidates go through there. So that was my childhood, was seeing every single presidential candidate at the Iowa State Fair, at coffee shops. This was just normal for us. Kamala Harris couldn't even make it to the Iowa caucuses. That's how terrible she was. She had to drop out before anything really got started. So they can't tie her to any policy that is out there. And yeah, I mean, it's vibes summer. Why would we go out there and actually tell her what people actually want to hear? Anything substantial? No, we can't do that, you guys. We don't even need to try. We don't need to pretend anymore to put policies out there. Instead, we'll have Justin Vernon of Bon Iver. He's in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We'll go ahead and put on a free concert and they'll say, oh, but this is the Kamala rally. Well, no, you guys, it's a free concert. Of course, people are going to go to that. And they hand out the Harris signs and it looks like a great deal.
Yeah, and lots of AI people show up to the events. And I mean, that's what's really disturbing is like there's at least one. And I know if there's smoke, there's fire. They are putting out these press photos of these events that seem to be overflowing with human beings, but they're actually just humanoids that have been manufactured by AI. It's terrible.
That's what's passing for the news these days.
Yes.
Because if there wasn't independent news sources, this is what would be on the nightly news all the time, and nobody would know any different.
Well, so I mean, this is the question: is like, are we watching the MSM, the media, turn into Pure Vibes?
Pure Vibes. If Pure Vibes is Pravda, then we are pure vibing it all summer long through November 5th and beyond. If they can get away with it, they absolutely will. And if there's, I mean, what kind of pushback do we actually see? Yes, we have a handful of good congressmen that are out there that try to do something. Is that ever going to be enough to push that through to a finish line where it actually makes something substantial change? I hope so. I mean, that's why we're here. That's what we're doing,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, they can get away with it. There are so many normies that have no clue what's going on right now.
Are you afraid that there just aren't enough warm bodies in America to do something besides vibe it out?
I think that what we're seeing right now in this news cycle, I think people are going, you know what? That doesn't add up. Like, we know that nobody liked Kamala Harris. Like, so how is she now this cool person? I don't think that would be something that just even the normies. I think that this could at least penetrate into their brains, that they are trying so hard every time. And we know one thing about Democrats is they will always overreach every single time. And that's what we have going for us. So
here's something you can't vibe away, which is the near assassination of former President Trump. They are trying, but the videos. Was it a bullet? I know, the videos keep coming out. We now have video of body cam video of the first cop who tried to get the shooter off the roof.
Yeah, we had Lara Trump on Blaze News tonight, and it was the week that the FBI director was trying to say, I don't know if Donald Trump was shot. It might have been shrapnel. And she's like, this is so disturbing for us just as a family to say that you sat there and watched this happen. It was on live television. You can go through and see that the teleprompters are fully intact. They're not broken. This isn't hard. This isn't like a big conspiracy theory that's going to take days and days and days to figure out. No, guys, he was shot. And then they had to go back with egg on their face and say, okay, he actually was shot. Donald Trump's doctor had to put out a statement saying, yes, he in fact was shot. But this is what we're dealing with, right? Like, you have these news sources that this is what they'll tell you is everything that you think you know, you don't know. But remember, over here, Kamala Harris is really, really cool, and you should just believe it.
It's insane to see the news go from, we're going to tell you what the truth is, and even very late into this kind of post-2016 world, that's the message that you are getting out of the corporate news. We are the arbiters of truth. Donald Trump is the chaos guy. He says things that are nonsensical at best, and we're going to give you the facts. And now where we are is we are going to confuse you, and we're going to confuse you so much that you're only going to have these kinds of vague feelings and memes to go off of, and then we're going to give you those.
Well, they realized that James Comey made a mistake in the week before the election and said, oh, Hillary Clinton and the server, oops, all that stuff. So then 2020 comes along with the Hunter Biden laptop, and we see the suppression of the news. And they were all saying, that's not a real story. That isn't his laptop. Don't believe what you've seen with your own eyes. I get that there are all these pictures out there of Hunter, but that's not really him, and that's not really his laptop. And this is what, when that is allowed to happen in 2016, this is 2020, guess what? They'll just keep pushing that down the road until they have substantial pushback.
We even got this beautiful moment before it all caved in when the message that was coming out was, it's good actually, Hunter Biden is in the White House helping his father, and that's a good thing. And they even tried with that for a minute.
And we still don't know whose cocaine it was.
No. And he might still be in the White House. We don't know that either.
Don't ask.
No, it's a party in the White House, baby.
It always is.
Good vibes only.
Good vibes only. I mean, if that's what we're learning here. That's what they want.
Growing up in Iowa, did you ever imagine that we would be here and that you would be right in the center of it?
So when I grew up, I sat next to my dad, and whatever he liked, I liked. So it was sports, history, and politics.
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to do sports first. I was in junior high, and I said all these sports announcers, I would say the things that they would say before they would say them. And I went, oh, that's so easy. I'm going to do that. This seems like a really fun job.
Yeah.
And then I got into high school. And when I was 18, I said, okay, I am going to do sports first. Eventually, I'll move over to politics.
No history.
Well, a history teacher was also going to be like the backup plan. If nothing else was going to work out, I was like, I could go do that. That'd be a fun life. But yeah, I mean, I grew up watching all of this. I'm a Rush baby. I believe that Iowa is probably the only state in the country that tape delayed Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
Because the Iowans need their corn prices in the morning.
Right.
So when my dad would pick me up from school, Rush was on from 1 to 4 p.m. And I'd be like, man, do we have to listen to this guy again?
Yes.
And yes, we did.
Yes, you did.
And then it just started seeping in, and I was like, okay, I understand this. And then before you knew it, I was listening to him on my own. So in a roundabout way, I kind of had an idea that I would be here, but not here with all of this chaos happening in 2024. And this is the way that, again, 2 days after the show launched, Donald Trump got shot. I never would have thought that would have happened.
Ballpark guess, how long is this cycle of chaos going to last?
Well, are you a fourth turning guy?
I'm familiar.
Okay.
I do have the sort of first edition paperback sitting on my shelf.
We're in a crisis situation right now. It started in 2008, and then you have a period of relative calm, and then you have the catalyst. I think that we are now seeing the catalyst moving us forward. And if you listen to that, that's a cycle that lasts about 20 to 30 years. And, so if it starts in 2008, we still have a ways to go before everything is going to shake itself out. But I think for the next 4 years or so, we are going to be in economic hard times. We are going to be in political chaos still. And I hope that we come out still as a sane country on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. Fourth turning. There was a play, I think. A fourth turning play.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It's really like all of these books that were sort of like you had to know people in order to know about them in the 90s. There's that one, Sovereign Individual. Like there are a couple of these books.
I'm a Creature from Jekyll Island girl as well.
This is deep cuts.
This is it.
Very deep cuts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So cool.
Right. Yeah. That's
great at parties. When I tell everybody what's about to happen, they're like, could you not?
Do you scare friends and family?
All the time.
Yeah.
This week, I was out with a friend who knows how I am and knows that this is what I do. But then she had two other additional friends out at dinner. And they were like, hey, what's going on? And I was like, oh, man, World War III could start right now. Like, Iran is, like, handing out pamphlets, whatever. And they're like, what? I said, oh, sorry. They don't follow the news like we do. And that comes as a shock to people when you're like, oh, you're just very blatant. Like, hey, maybe go get some food in your freezer. Like, just be on the safe side. Like, just check it out.
The debate right now among the very online is that it's like half of them say it's so over and half of them say actually nothing ever happens. So we have this cycle of all these like crises that the fever never really breaks. And so are they really crises if it never all falls apart? You watch the Tokyo Stock Exchange take a huge dive and then sort of crawls back the next day and you watch, it's going to be the general war in the Middle East, the nukes are going to fly, and then it kind of keeps not happening.
Yeah.
Houthis sink some ships, but it's like we're walking up to the brink and then we keep finding a way to sort of back off. You think
Iran
that
tried
can
to start World War III on my birthday. It was April 13th. I was going out for my birthday dinner and they were shooting up the missiles, and then Israel with the Iron Dome and everything, they were able to get all of those out of the sky without doing too much damage. But I think that if you're looking at the pieces on the chessboard right now, per our previous conversation of Joe Biden in the White House, why would you wait to act if you're one of these countries? Now, you don't know what's going to happen in the election. So right now that there is not a lot of brain power right now in our White House.
Yeah.
We're probably pretty easy to attack at this point if you're going to go out there and do something overseas, at least
probably
with one of our allies.
But my working theory for all this is that actually everyone's pretty weak.
It's true. No, it's absolutely
every
true.
one of these countries has its own sort of domestic sort of cluster.
We're playing a game of chicken.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that it's funny that it was actually Japan that was the one that was leading the way down in the stock market, because the United States and China have been in currency wars for a very long time. And it's like, whose economy is going to last longer?
Right.
And this is the game that we've been playing. And then Japan out of nowhere is like, hey, our carry trade, we're just going to raise rates another 25 basis points on a Wednesday, and then everything's going to blow up that weekend. That's how small it is like we have stumbled over a piece of paper. That's how tall this wall that they built with raising rates 25 basis points went, and it broke $3 trillion out of the economy.
Well, what about the Fed? Suddenly you've got, rate cuts are on the table for September. Nobody freak out. You think it's coming?
Yeah, I think that they're going to cut rates at that point. But when they cut rates, and everybody usually jumps for joy saying, oh, it's here. Go back and look when they cut rates. One, they're usually too late because the Fed is terrible at what they do anyway. But two, just be careful what you're wishing for.
Mm-hmm. And this takes us back to housing. It's all interlinked, and a lot of buyers have been sitting on the sidelines waiting for that magic rate cut that's going to, people are sitting on the sidelines waiting for things to happen, and the minute something happens, it's going to be a rush. It's going to be a stampede.
And we're in Texas right now, and there are so many homes for sale in Texas right now, and price cuts are the name of the game at this point in time. And is your house worth what it says it's worth on paper right now? No, your house is worth what somebody is willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
And that is going to have a major readjustment soon.
And BlackRock can't buy them all.
No. They're going to try.
They're going to try. But it seems like, I never hear from someone saying like, oh, I really thought I was in trouble selling my house. And then BlackRock came along and they bought it for me.
They're going to save the day. No, I'm with you on that. They're not a great solution, and they're half of the reason why we have home prices as elevated as they are right now, because they kept buying up all of the supply that was available on the market.
Well, if there's one refuge from the news, it's got to be sports, right? This is where people go to withstand the news.
I need some bread and circuses in my life. Please bring on college football.
Some bread and blasphemy and circuses. I've got something really exciting to share. They say no one reads anymore, but I know that's not true, at least not for this audience. Our best and most important ideas are still captured in print, which is why we've decided to launch a premium quarterly magazine, Frontier. I'm holding the first issue now, and this thing is beautiful. Frontier is packed with thoughtful commentary, stunning photography, and original journalism that highlights the people who refuse to back down. The first issue features work from Matt Taibbi, Chris Rufo, Mark Levin, and Glenn Beck. This isn't just a magazine, we're planting a flag in the ground. I think you're going to love it. But Frontier is just the beginning. As part of our new Blaze Unlimited membership, you'll get exclusive access to Frontier, delivered right to your door, along with a whole lot more. Blaze Unlimited is about taking another step forward, fighting back against state-run media, propaganda, and the forces trying to tear down the foundations of this country. As a founding member of Blaze Unlimited, you'll receive a limited edition founding members card, even more behind-the-scenes content, VIP event access, and, here's the big one, the chance to have your voice heard. We want you to help shape the future of Blaze Media and push back against the mainstream machine that's doing everything it can to silence truth. This membership is about more than sitting on the sidelines. It's about actively joining the mission to defend free speech and uphold the American way of life. So if you're ready to take the next step in this fight, go to blazeunlimited.com/James to claim your spot. But don't wait. Founding member spots are limited because we know this isn't going to be for everyone. Let's stand together, push back, and keep the spirit of America alive. Join Blaze Unlimited today. We're just getting started. The thing about sports, which makes people want to watch it still, is this is supposed to be like the last refuge of competence. Physical competence. It's not just like living in your head. It's actually working with other people in the real world to actually meet achievable goals.
Yes, and it's not anything that you have to perform, right? Like it is the ultimate merit-based system. If you can't do this, you're out. And Americans, this used to be what we loved, what we strived for. And now they're trying to take that all away too. It feels like with the trans issue especially, your performance isn't the most important thing now. It's the DEI. It's what gender you are going to subscribe to
What
one
identity are
day
you
or the
performing?
next. We are now even trying to back off of what was just pure Americana. And that's why I think it was so funny that Hulk Hogan was at the DNC.
Oh, yeah.
Or at the RNC.
Yes.
Sorry. No, not DNC. RNC. And he was just out there and he's like, I haven't been very active in this, but I feel like it's just that time. And it was like, yes, we want that feeling of America and our sports figures, and just give us a minute away from the news cycle. Make us feel like we can be a part of something as a group together that isn't dividing us every single time. And I think that's what sports has the ability to do, is ultimately still bring people together, feel that community, feel like you're bigger than just your one self. And I think that it's unfortunate, but the way that things keep going, I don't know if sports is going to continue to be that refuge for people or not.
Even fake wrestling is more real than the simulation that they've got us.
100% right now. I would take Hulk Hogan every single day over whatever the fake people that we have in the White House. Do you remember that guy that had the long fingernails and he's like, "We did it.
I keep trying to forget."
And he's like, I don't know, some social media intern or whatever that the White House had for that day. Like, you're trying to tell me that that's reality. Mm-hmm. I don't want to live in that reality. Mm-hmm. Please give me fake wrestling instead. That's way better. That's way more realistic, in my opinion.
Well, so there have been at least a few kind of like pendulum swinging back in the other direction, right? Like some of those jerseys with the all the stripes on them have kind of gone away.
Yeah.
And some of the branding and like, it does seem like some of the pro leagues are trying to kind of like dial it back a little bit.
The Texas Rangers here are the team that will not do a Pride Night. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because at first other people were trying to shame them into doing it. And they're like, it's a hard no.
Shame them into being shameless.
For this. And Harrison Butker for the Kansas City Chiefs. Mm-hmm. He is their kicker who famously is Catholic, who came out and said very Catholic things at a Catholic commencement speech. And everybody that wasn't Catholic had a problem with it. And we're like, I don't think this wasn't for you. He was speaking to his audience, and the Hunt family, who owns the Chiefs, stood by him and said, no, we're very happy that he is a part of our team. They went out and made him the highest paid kicker in the NFL. He did his own deal. He didn't even use an agent, so he even gets that extra 3 to 4%. I did not know that.
Back. Yeah, that's a key little cut there.
And he recently, just as training camp has begun again, has doubled down on what he said. And he's like, I'm not going to run away from this. I am very happy that this is the life that I have, that this is the life that my wife has chosen, that she is so loving and caring of our family. But it's nice to see that there is somebody that is willing to take a stand. And it shows you still, his jersey became the highest selling jersey on the entire NFL website. So there are still people out there that care and will support the good people in this organization.
Yeah. Even just publicly identifying as Christian in sports counts as standing up in the face of the madness.
Because you'd rather have Dwayne Wade has his, I think is a son to daughter or daughter to son, but a trans child, and is very vocal about this. And he's commenting on the Olympic Games for the men's basketball portion. Mm-hmm. And he tweeted out something for LeBron James. His pronouns are he, him, right? Like a joke, like he's that guy, him.
Right.
And we're like, Dwayne, buddy, could you not? But no, but he has to put it in our faces because that is a part of his everyday life.
It is obligatory. If you're on that team, you are required to be out there every day pushing it.
Yeah, and even just to do that to LeBron James, I'm sure LeBron's probably like, okay, could we? Even LeBron.
Even LeBron. Yes, when you've lost LeBron.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. All right. So at some point, moving from sports to politics became more than an idea for you. It became a reality.
It did.
How'd that go down?
COVID. We stopped having sports, so I had to move on.
That was it.
That's
incredible.
2020. Mm-hmm. I was in Las Vegas at the Pac-12 men's basketball tournament during COVID when it all went down. We were the last completed collegiate basketball game before COVID struck everything. Now the Big East did start games the next day, but they called them at like halftime, which is very weird. Like, why? What are we doing here, you guys? Like, we couldn't come to a decision before. Like, let's think this through.
That's a huge asterisk for that game. Right?
And so that was it. That was like the claim to fame, is we were all there at potentially the last game, and we didn't know how long this was going to last. Everybody went home, and then they were like, okay, well, I think they're going to cancel the NCAA tournament. And we're like, there's no way. You guys don't understand. This is a huge deal. They can't cancel the tournament. Maybe they'll delay it. Maybe we'll get it again. No, they canceled it. And then we didn't know when college football was going to come back. So at that point, I worked for the Pac-12 network for 8 years. And they called me up and just said, hey, we're not going to use reporters this year, because they didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
So they had to cut costs and figure out how to even get a product on the air. And so it was a lot of the announcers were at home. Everybody got kind of used to seeing people calling games from their living room.
Stupid mini fake bookshelves behind them.
That was a whole thing.
Era began. And it's still kind of not over. Like, you still have like ESPN doing this, where there's people phoning in and they got their tchotchkes, and it's just like, what?
Because they normalized it and they could save money by doing it that way. Then they went, oh, this is going to continue. So then at that point, I moved to Dallas, and I said, oh, I'm gonna stalk these people here until they let me in the building. And they did. And I became a BlazeTV contributor for 3 years, and that's what I was doing in the meantime, and then got the show.
Yeah. Well, it's important. I mean, it's look, sports are great. People love sports. Sometimes they want it for escape. Sometimes they want it so that they can sort of get like some kind of filter on the news that makes it possible to ingest. But gosh, like, whether you want to participate in political news or not, you are participating. You may not be interested in the news. It's interested in you. We are all being manipulated. It's all part of the show. And you got to know at least a little bit of what's going on.
You have to. And you can't just sit back and hope that this is all going to go away anymore, because it's not. It's in your face every single day. And your escape, again, like with Dwayne Wade, they will make you care about the issues that they care about until they have that pushback against the insanity that is out there, where men should not be competing against women. And a lot of people have been standing up against it, but the news cycle is overlapping with sports. Sports is overlapping with the news cycle. Clay Travis is one of my good buddies, and he went famously from sports into politics. And he would say, I didn't try to do this. It all just became one giant thing that was all bundled together. And he, now he's up there with Buck Sexton on what was the Rush Limbaugh show.
Yeah, Buck. Well, he's a good dude. I had him on my old show that we don't talk about anymore back in the day.
They're great guys.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, just as every crisis sort of is now being mushed into one enormous crisis ball, it's like every story is becoming one story.
Yeah, and you can't get away from certain angles of stories either. And as much as I would try to keep my sports life over here and my political life over here, they all eventually will merge together. And we're seeing that every single day.
I remember Mark Zuckerberg back in the day when he was still kind of on top. And his vision of the internet for everyone in the world was, look, you're going to have one identity, and it's going to be you, and it's going to be you on the internet, and it's not going to be like you have sort of anonymous, pseudonymous, whatever. Like, no, it's just you're going to be you, and that's how it's going to be for everyone. And at the time, that seemed like it was already starting to seem suspicious, right? Wait a minute, if you can track me and trace me and follow me and absorb all my information, and there's nowhere to hide on the internet, then how is there going to be anywhere to hide in real life? And yet here we are, and we're being pushed that way by the force of circumstances.
I love that Zuck has become a total bro as well, that he's just embracing that, like, he's trying to become cool again. But then we see everything that's happening, and whether you think that he had a hand in it or not, We know that Meta came out and tried to label the Trump photo with his fist up in the air as misinformation, right? On Instagram and Facebook, they were saying, oh, this is edited, this isn't real. No, we all knew we watched this happen on live TV, you guys.
Yeah.
You can't tell us that we didn't see this with our own eyes. And Zuck came out and said, oh no, we're so sorry, because we've been able to push back. Again, we saw this happen in real time. And it's still one of those things where if you're a conservative on Instagram, you have to turn off the settings for this is monitored political speech. Are you sure you want to follow this person? We had a story on Blaze News where that was happening to Tucker Carlson. And I was one of those people that had gone through and done this with my settings, right? I knew what to do because I follow all of the different, anytime they're trying to censor you for your political speech, I go and turn all of that stuff off.
Yeah.
And even then, we turned those buttons off by mistake. You're going to have to go and redo it
every single time.
One more time, every single time. And it only happens in one direction every single time. We see now again with the news just this last week or two where Google was, if you put in Donald Trump in the Google results, you don't get all of the autofills that you would normally get. It's just, if you put in assassination attempt, it wouldn't autofill with Donald Trump. It would go all the way back to, Ronald Reagan and all this
Truman,
stuff. You can't, the
Trujillo,
Truman.
Really, yeah.
That's what I'm looking for in 2024 is the assassination attempt on Truman. You're right, Google. That's it.
It's the assassination attempt on the news.
Yes.
The calls coming from inside the house. I was talking to Tucker back in, I think it was 2021, depths of COVID time. And he, how he is. And he's like, James, I just want to live in a cabin in the woods. And it's like, so many people feel that and have felt that.
Yeah.
And, look, if you want to opt out, go. The monasteries are open. You can go to the monastery, become a monk, become a nun, and spend all your time praying for the salvation of the world. You can do that. But it's just too hard to live in the cabin in the woods. You cannot try to have some middle ground where it's like, well, I'll just move out into the wilderness and try to mind my own business. You can't mind your own business.
Maine seems a little rough in the winters.
Not for me. Too cold.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Too
again,
much.
People are listening to us and they're like, oh, Texas summers. That's much easier than dealing with Maine in the winter.
Yeah.
So as much as I would want to be off the grid, and that's a dream, right? I would love to go have a huge farm where I could be off the grid and have all of my own food and all that. First of all, nobody really knows how to do that anymore. I think it's a skill set that is going to need to return.
Yes.
But until we are forced into it, we're not going to know, right? I would keep container gardens as I can move all the time. I can't. Not going to be anything in the dirt that I bop around too much. But I can do containers.
Yeah. Well, and sure enough, Tucker did not, in fact, go live in the woods. He's now number one, back on top in the podcast game, or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Bigger than Rogan.
I look at that and I'm not surprised because I knew that Tucker, once he got out of the Fox News bubble, right? That was Tucker chained.
Yeah.
He couldn't say everything that he wanted to say. So what was Tucker Unchained going to look like? Well, it was going to look like the number one podcast in America. And Joe Rogan is interesting, right? He has a stranglehold on a ton of the men in America. This is who they listen to. They all have the little saunas and they're all cold plunging and doing all the Joe Rogan things.
Yes. No hate for the sauna and the cold plunge. I recommend it.
Are you that guy?
I am that guy,
yeah.
But I'm not the peyote bro guy.
But he is that guy.
Yes,
right?
He is.
And it's one of the things where you can still see he was California and then he moved to Austin.
Yeah.
Which is in the state of Texas, but is not Texas.
On the map, it says it's in Texas.
Still a little socialist down there.
A little bit.
But again, Tucker understands the good versus evil. Joe Rogan does not. And that, I believe, is why you see Tucker overtaking this, because it is just the sign of the times where this election, and again, everybody says it's the most annoying thing when everybody's like, this is the most important election of our lifetime. But you look at what's happening in the UK right now, where the actual government, the UK, right? If the United States had a Twitter handle on X, whatever, that just said United States, this is the equivalent of what the UK is doing right now, saying, think before you post. People are being arrested in the United Kingdom for social media posts. They are trying to do that then in the United States. Kamala Harris's VP pick, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, has come out before and said, oh, misinformation, political speech, you better be careful, basically, some paraphrasing, what you're saying, especially in regards to democracy. I don't want to hear that from a political candidate that is going to be the number 2 person in line to the presidency. I don't want somebody that is that radical, that had the BLM riots, the George Floyd, that was where it happened, was in Minnesota. The spark that we saw for the riots of 2020 was right there.
Pro-riots, pro-pedos. I mean, he's really stacking.
Pro-trans, they call him Tampon Tim, which is the best nickname of this entire election cycle. But then he also was one of the guys that said, hey, you should be snitching on your neighbor in COVID. If you see something, say something. I don't want that to become the rest of America. And
it can't. America's over if you do that. It can't be.
And that is where it comes back to, okay, do you want Donald Trump? Do you like Donald Trump? Do you think that Donald Trump is the absolute best candidate that we've ever had? No, you don't have to think that he's the best. But he is absolutely better than what we are going to go up against with the Harris-Walz ticket and RFK Jr. And at this point in time, I didn't know if Donald Trump was going to be in it for himself, like the Donald Trump revenge tour for everything that they did to him in 2020. That was my biggest insecurity with Trump. Was he actually going to take down the FBI, right? Like at one point he's like, we'll build a new beautiful building. I don't want to hear that, Don. I want to know that you're going to go after them. The FBI is rotten to the core. You need to dismantle them. And if you're going to rebuild it, fine. But take this one down to the studs. After he gets shot, I feel, and again, this is just me, but it feels different now that he is going to go through and say, everything that I can possibly do will be done. No matter what. It's not going to be the personal revenge tour. I think it refocused him, where he is the best version of himself when he's saying, they are coming after me because I'm standing in the place of you. They want to get to you, and I'm just the person that's not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And
a little taste of your own mortality goes a long way.
Yes. And I think that when you look at this election cycle as a whole, we were veering away from the issues, and which is always the worst thing that Republicans can do. Please keep this about the issues. But Donald Trump, being Donald Trump, likes to just, get off script sometimes.
He's still the biggest news story in the world. And I think that's what really drives them insane. Because if you control what the biggest story in the world is, if you choose what becomes news at the top, that radiates down through the whole media ecosystem. All the commentators, all the Monday morning quarterbacks, all of the commenters and the replies. And that's why they don't like Elon, is because he's shaping the agenda for the news. And, that's great, but it's not enough. I was DMing a friend of mine in England on X. And, I was like, wow, what do you think about this? And he just replied, Signal. And, he's like, pops up in Signal. And he's like, sorry, I'm just not going to talk about it there, even on X, which is really disturbing.
That is. And I look at it where Donald Trump would always get in trouble when he would tweet at 4 a.m. And that would be the news cycle of the day.
Yep.
Well, he has Truth Social now. He's not as active as he used to be. I mean, tweets used to be flying out for Donald Trump.
Classics.
And that's where he would get in trouble. He's not there now. So I think that Donald Trump is much more likable and not in his own way, not a hindrance to himself. When it's a little bit more filtered through Truth Social, and then eventually that works its way over to X and everybody sees what he's saying.
It really is amazing, just the incredible staying power of Donald Trump as a news story, as a public figure. I mean, he's even bigger than aliens, than UFOs. And you look at, this is a perfect example of Tucker versus Rogan. Tucker, UFOs, demons. Rogan, UFOs, they're our friends. This is an interdimensional friendship tour, man.
But Donald Trump is going to dominate the news cycle every single time. And this is what, honestly, the mainstream media was still waiting for him to come back.
They need
because
him.
they saw what their ratings were without Donald Trump. And they couldn't, if you're an MSNBC, you can't go off every night just raging against nothing. They need that bully to go after. They need Orange Man bad, because what were they going to say about Joe Biden? We clearly know that they weren't going to say anything truthful. They couldn't say, oh, by the way, he has dementia. We see how he's performing.
Right. Another deep dive into the dementia.
True. Everybody can see it. No, they aren't ever going to expose themselves. They will do whatever they have to cover up for their team, because they do view themselves as somebody that is playing on the same team.
Yeah. All right, we got a few minutes left. For those who are stubbornly living in the cabin in the woods, taking the Kaczynski pill, living under a rock.
Whoa.
Right. Not recommended.
Yeah.
Tell us about the show, and what you want to do with it. You know, this is like a flagship media entity, and it's time. I mean, all these, John Oliver and all those guys, they dragged back Jon Stewart. Like, late night news programming is just very sad, and I don't know. It's been a minute since Tucker was in a later slot, and I just think the window is so wide open for somebody to step forward and give the American people, maybe not what they deserve, but what they need.
Yeah. So Blaze News Tonight is Monday through Friday, every night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And what we're trying to do is bring the news that matters to people, right? If you watch the mainstream media, the Trump assassination attempt has been gone for weeks now. They have pushed that story to the side. We are still trying to cover that, trying to get to the bottom of that. If it's a story that matters to our audience, we are going to do our very best to bring on the most intelligent people, the best sources that we can find to bring you solid information. And honestly, it's going to be everything from headlines of the day, the dystopian nature of things that are happening, good, insightful commentary from the right, and also just here's a different way of living your life. And we talk a lot about return and technology and another approach that you can go through. And so where you look at the news on mainstream media and you're left wondering what to do about it, I think that we're trying to fill in some of that as well and give you a sense of hope and give you another alternative where it's not just going to be the top headlines, but let's go ahead and move this forward as this group, because we're all in this together right now. And I don't know how much longer we are all going to honestly have to take these steps. And it's so concerning. And that's one of the reasons why I'm very appreciative and grateful to have the seat that I have right now, is to try and shape some of that conversation, because I am somebody that has not trusted the nightly news for basically my entire life. And to just try and be a little light in the darkness, that's what we're trying to do right now.
The context to the chaos.
Yeah.
That's what people want. I mean, look, they know that we're surrounded by propaganda, and it's so bad that, sometimes you do have to fight propaganda with propaganda if you just want to be heard. So, I'm obviously very glad that you're out there doing what you're doing, and I think that that everyone who tunes in looking for that little bit of light, which can illuminate so much, is going to enjoy it too.
I really appreciate that, and thanks for filling in for me that one day when I was out sick. Yeah,
anytime. Big shoes.
Yes.
All right, Jill Savage, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, that's all the time we got. Till next time around. Until then, I am James Poulos. This is 0 Hour, and may God have mercy on us all.